Bow down before my psycho power.
Today I want to talk about the rank system as a whole. Season 2 is coming to an end. Season 3 will begin. Season 3, they said that they will do some things in terms of ranks. They still haven't explained what those things are. They just generally said overhaul it, reset players back about 4 or 5 ranks. When you talk about overhauling it, it's a weird thing because they did a overhaul in season 1 and they only really made all the problems, the foreseeable problems, worse, right? You talk about inflation in season 1 being worse than Tekken 7, and then they supposedly fixed rank, and now inflation is worse than it has ever been. While I was testing whether or not I wanted to play on Steam, I created a Steam account and I wasn't really going into rank with the goal of getting God as quickly as possible. That kind of is just what happened. But when I was going to get God, I learned a lot of things, and it was a very eye-opening experience. One, when you talk about the beginner ranks to green ranks, a lot of people think that special style should not be in ranked, period, and I would kinda agree. But really, in those lower ranks, they're playing a totally different game, and for those guys, it's not about skill. It's more so just about the thrill. It's more so just about pretending to know what you're doing and just mashing buttons and getting stuff to work. I think that will set a bad habit, a bad precedent, where the people who do eventually like the game, they will continue to use special style if they start by doing that, and as they move up, they will get punished for doing so, because special style uses punishable moves, use risky moves, and as you move up the ranks, you will find out more and more and more that people are predicting you, people are reacting to you, and special style is a setup. And then once you decide to stop using special style, you have to learn the game, so you might as well do that from the start. Another thing that they have throughout all of the lower ranks, but for right now we're talking about the good side of it, the beginner, is that in beginner ranks, when I was there for the brief moment, since I went on like a 3-win streak, I blasted through all those ranks because there's bonus points, and the bonus points give you like 6,000 points each time you win. I think the bonus points do help keep Smurfs out of those ranks, but as a cost of that, you have some people who play at those low ranks and they plug to try to keep their win streak and try to benefit from that point gain. I don't even know if it was put there because of Smurfs, because how many people are actually Smurfing in the game to incentivize a change that drastically? In yellow ranks is where you actually start to be punished for losing. If you lose 1,000 points or whatever. I think that causes problems further down the line in terms of blue ranks and Tekken King and stuff like that. But for right now, I understand that the developers want to give those guys, once again, the illusion of playing the game and the illusion of progressing. Now, the next set of ranks is orange and red. When I was in orange and red, I seen the skill level start to rise a little bit. You seen people start to use their favorite moves or what moves they think are the coolest, but it was really all beginners. Where things started to change a little bit was purple rank. Now, purple ranks, when I was there, the skill level was far lower than any Tekken before. The interesting thing about this, and it's really only from like a top player perspective, is that it kind of makes all the ranks useless. When the first 10-15 ranks is just all beginner players who are just button mashing, I don't know if any other game does that. Like, what's the point of having 30 ranks if the first 15 is just beginners? But moving over to blue ranks, when I was in blue ranks, this is where I really start to see skill. This is where I really start to see players kind of have a real understanding of the game, and you have to play a little bit differently. You can still blast through them, but you have to just be more aware that they're becoming aware. It really did suck though that the bonus points goes all the way up until Bushin. You get 6,000 points if you're on a win streak. Once again, if they're doing that to get Smurfs out of the queue, you have to ask the question of how impactful is Smurfs to the whole process to warrant that massive of a change, because it creates this huge thing where if you get 2 wins, 3 wins, you get an insane amount of points. It's kind of just like bottlenecking the players up to blue ranks, and then when they turn off bonus points, players feel that certain hit on the brakes. They feel that momentum stop, and when they feel it stop, they start to look for different reasons as to why that happened. And a lot of people blame the higher ranked players, God players who were on alt characters hanging out in Tekken King and the blue ranks because they're trying to learn their character. Blue rank players hate that, they despise that. But funny enough, That's how it's always been. In Tekken 7, it was low-key worse, where blue ranks, you would go up against Tekken God Prime on their main character. In blue ranks, you probably will never go up against a GOD person on their main character. And this is what I think is the problem when the developers give players all these rewards and all these participation trophies. When you stop doing that, players will kind of get upset. It's like if you give a baby a bottle and then stop giving them the bottle, they're going to throw a tantrum. For Tekken King rank, this is kind of where Tekken begins, and it's kind of sad because it's like 25 ranks in, but this is where you start to see like a constant level of skill. People really start to understand their character. They start to understand how to play the game. The interesting thing about the top ranks, Tekken King, Emperor, God, Supreme, and God, those 5 ranks, even though it is 5 ranks, those ranks and also the points it takes to jump to the next gap is bigger than in lower ranks. In lower ranks, you can win like 5,000, 2,000 points and then promote to the next rank. At the top ranks, it takes like 10,000, 20,000 points. Even though it's only one rank, getting from the beginning of a rank to the next rank is the same distance you would make in like purple or blue. So basically what that makes is where each one of those ranks is its own separate skill level of players. And when I was playing on PC and I was progressing, I felt it. I felt in Tekken King where people knew how to play their characters somewhat and they were trying, but they didn't know how to deal with matchups. In Tekken Emperor, you saw people start to really master their character, but then they're still struggling with matchups. As you enter into Tekken God and Supreme, you see people starting to understand how to deal with matchups, and it becomes a little bit harder. But one thing that I was so wildly surprised by is when I was in Tekken God and Supreme ranks, I was still going on long win streaks, and the only people who could really stop me were pro players and other players who were like God. And this is what really made me realize that even though Tekken God and Supreme is like 1 or 2 ranks behind God, the skill difference, it's not even a skill difference, the knowledge difference is massive. Because you may be able to reach these ranks or you may be able to get close, but the way that you maintain it is with just a deeper understanding. And when you talk about Tekken God's destruction, this is what I think is the biggest hurdle going from God to God1. You're basically at the top of all the scrubs and you understand how to play the game. I think being God of Destruction means you're in 0.5% of the players. You have to be so safe yet so aggressive and so defensively sound to progress to God1. And the way that I perceive that task is probably the same task for the other ranks behind me, but it's just like, basically it's like a narrowing gap. In order to get through Tekken Emperor, you have to play a certain type of, defensive, offensive Tekken. And then it keeps whittling down, because it's about consistency. You may be able to do good here against this character, against that character, but you have to be consistent across the whole roster of characters over a long duration. If you can't do that, you're going to get pushed back. And also, if you talk about the GODs playing different characters, the pros playing GOD characters. When I was on my climb through Supreme and God, there was like people who were like God 2 on other characters in the queue, and they would beat me. The final thing that I'll say, I've asked many people how do they feel about God Plus, and some of the feedback that I received is long load times. It's kind of a meaningless grind because it's impossible to progress. You have to go on huge win streaks, and if you lose one time, it's all wiped away. A lot of pro players kind of feel like, who cares? But it's more so just like bragging rights. Do you really want to be at the top of the leaderboard? Okay, you do. You want to post it to Twitter? Then you'll just go on an insane grind to get it. But it's not really about skill. The people who are the best at the game have like 10 characters that's God2. So it's not about having one character that's God5. It's about, once again, knowledge and understanding. Overall, ranks, it's about how high can you get so you can brag. Can you get the blue ranks so you can brag? Can you get the Tekken King? Can you get the God? Can you get the God5? Can you get the God Infinite? It's all just about bragging. It's not really about skill. And I wonder if season 3 will they add skill back into it, because if they do add skill back into the equation, then everything will change. Bonus points, win-loss points, free pass up to blue ranks, Tekken King being where it really starts at, taking the GODs out of the blue ranks, you know, the GOD 1 players being separated from everyone else. I think if it's really going to be about skill in season 3, all of that will change.